Laura here. I'm back today to do another Top 10 Tuesday from the Artsy Reader Girl. I did recently start school, but I'm definitely going to commit to at least doing this video a week and a reading vlog and whatever else that winds up popping up. So today's topic was low-key favorites. And these are book series that I really enjoyed, but I don't think that gets nearly enough press or love, so I'm here to share them with you. Some of these I have mentioned before, but let's get into it. The first category is contemporary. And there's two books that I want to chat about, and the first one is the Pushing the Limit series by Katie McGarry. This is the first contemporary romance series that I ever read, and I felt so in love with this book and this world. I just really loved it. All the books are like interconnected, and the first three books follow these three foster kids that wind up living together and their romantic entanglements. I thought the book series were super interesting, super compelling, super diverse. It was definitely more of an emotional, gut-wrenching read than the sweet contemporaries that I normally see or read, but I really loved it. My favorite book in that quartet is Dare You To and Chasing the Impossible. Those are my two favorites. I'm dying to reread this series. I re-listened to Dare You To recently and really enjoyed it. I have a backlist of Katie's books that I still need to read, which are not set in that world, but that I really am excited to dive into. One is Say You'll Remember Me, and the other is her new one that comes out in January. But I really like Katie McGarry, and I don't think she gets nearly enough love as an author. So that is my shout out for Katie McGarry. The next book is one that was one of the first, I think it was like the second or third Owl Crate book that ever came out, and that was The Night We Said Yes by Lauren Gibraltar. And that is just a contemporary book about these two characters, and they wound up having a really fun summer where they had this day where they just said they said yes to everything that they did, and then a year later we revisit these characters, and they are in kind of different places. One of their core four has left and is coming back, and that has kind of sent their world kind of on a lot of upheaval, because when he left, he kind of left unexpectedly, and it kind of changed their group dynamics. But you revisit these group of friends, and they try to rekindle what they would have with another Night We Said Yes. And it was just so cute and so fun. And I actually read it early. I got it from the library before I knew what the book was, and I adored it. And I still have it on my shelf, so hopefully I'll get to reread it soon. And I know that they have Matt's Story, which is like an e-novella out, so I might actually wind up picking that up as well. But I just really liked it. I thought it was such a fun contemporary, and it was a perfect summer read as well. So that's my shout out for The Night We Said Yes. The next category of books is fantasy, and actually there's probably like three in here. So the first one is another Owl Crate book, and that's The Glass Spare by Lauren DiStefano. This was the November Owl Crate book, and I actually really liked it. I know people said that they found it super slow, but I actually just really loved the world. I thought the powers that were developed were super interesting, and I just loved all the court dynamics. So if you're looking for kind of like a more medieval fantasy book with like a hint of a paranormal or fantasy twist, magic twist, I'd recommend it, and I'm really excited to read the next one. I think it comes out this fall, which I will definitely be adding to my TBR. I loved how we got various perspectives in the book, and it made it even more infuriating at the end when you didn't get those perspectives, because you're like, well, what happened to those other characters? So I hope that book 2 answers my pressing questions. But overall, I really found that book to be really enjoyable, and I'm definitely going to be checking out the sequel, and I don't think that it gets nearly enough love, which is why I'm mentioning it. Another Owl Crate book that I want to mention is Everland by Wendy Spinella, and I actually just recently finished this whole series, and they're basically like, the first one is like basically like a Neverland retelling. The second one is an Alice in Wonderland retelling, and the third one is an Oz retelling, and it's just so fun. The characters were so fun. I said it in a couple of my other videos. I think that this is a perfect like jump series. Like if you're younger readers or readers want to transition from YA middle grade to YA, this would be a great transitional series. I thought that the world building was done so spectacularly, and I just loved how there was a continuing narrative throughout all the books, but also each book focused on two separate characters, or a couple of different characters that you got as point of view characters. I thought it was just so well done, and I really hope she writes more in the future, because this series definitely became one of my like definitely like hidden gem favorites just because I thought it was so fun. And the books were so fun to read. They were very, very fast paced, very, very adventure focused. And the worlds that Wendy created were just really, really spectacular. And I loved all the tiebacks that she gave to the various worlds, like Neverland, Oz, and Alice. So I thought that it was great. And I would highly recommend this series to anyone looking for a unique retelling, um, a unique retelling type of book because I really enjoyed it. That I would put in this category is the Holmes and Stoker series by I can't remember her name. But it's there's 3 books. I actually still have to read the 4th one, so it is on my list. But this is about 2 girls, Holmes and Sherlock Holmes, a Sherlock Holmes like character, and Mina, who is the sister of Bram Stoker. And there's some paranormal stuff. There's a lot of mystery. They solve different cases, and these 2 girls just kind of kick butt. And I found the series to be so charming. I found it at my library and just was hooked. I read book 2 twice, and I really liked book 2 and 3. I desperately need to read book 4. It's on my list, and I'm going to try to get it from my library. But overall, it just was a really, really fun series, and I think that, again, another type of retelling that I don't often read a lot of Sherlock Holmes books, but this one was really, really fun, and I really enjoyed it. So if you're looking for kind of a different Sherlock Holmes with like a Bram Stoker twist, I actually really liked it, and I loved all the paranormal stuff that got thrown in and how it was handled. And there's a time traveler from the future in this book series as well, which I thought was really, really charming. I actually really need to read that new book, but I will report back when I do. But yeah, I highly recommend the Holmes and Stoker series. Category of books, I only have one, is science fiction, and that is These Broken Star series by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. I actually really like that series. I thought that it was so well done. Definitely a much more higher science fiction version. Like I think it's a little bit more complicated than I would say like Zenith or Heart of Iron is, but I loved it. I was so invested in all the storylines. I think the last book was definitely my favorite. The books had a lot of connection between them, and the 3rd book really was so exciting. So I really like that series. If you're looking for kind of a more science-y based science fiction novel, that is the one I would recommend. Basically, the first one is a Titanic in space. The second one is about a rebellion, and the 3rd kind of combines them all together. And I really, really like that. I thought that it was so much fun. There's a boy and a girl in every book, and there's a lot of romance, there's a lot of action, there's a lot of adventure, and it was just such a fun read. And I'm so excited to see what they're working on next, and maybe see some more science fiction stuff from them in the future. They also wrote the Unearthed series, which is currently being published, and I'm actually really enjoying that one as well. But this series is definitely my favorite of theirs so far. The next category of books is time travel, and that is the Passenger series by Alexandra Bracken. I really love this series, and I think it's super complicated. It is a super complicated world, and I think that's why it sometimes gets left by the wayside, but I love this series so much. I think Alexandra Bracken really did the impossible because she made this book so real, like it's just so well crafted. Her world was great, her characters were great. I think I definitely, these are books that you really need to reread. Like once you read and complete it, you definitely have to go back and reread the series or re-listen to it, because I think it's just so complicated, and the beauty in how she crafts her world is like expanded on once you read it again, because I just think it becomes a little bit more apparent how complicated these stories are. But overall, I love this series. I don't think it gets nearly enough love, but it was definitely a favorite of mine in that genre. So the next category I'm going to chat about is middle grade, and I actually have 2 books to chat about. The first book is Samantha Spinner and the Super Secret Plans. This book was just such a fun adventure story. It was super fast paced. I think I read it in like a day, but it basically follows this little boy and little girl, and when their uncle goes missing and they are basically inundated with money, they go on an adventure to try to find him, and they get caught up in all these weird mysteries, and it's a little bit more like history based because every single place they go, you learn a little bit about the location. Like they go to the Eiffel Tower, they go to like Shea Stadium. You just learn a little bit more about the architecture of these places with a little bit of like a fantasy twist or like an adventure twist, and it just was super fun. I really liked it, and I love the main characters. I really can't wait to read book 2 next year, but it was just super fun. And the book series that's definitely my favorite middle grade so far is the Van Beekers of 141st Street. or 140, yeah, 141st Street. I love this book so much. It was like a perfect holiday read. It's basically about the set of siblings that live in New York City, and their evil landlord is trying to evict them the day after Christmas, and they go through all these adventures to try to stay, and it was just adorable. They're actually coming out with a book 2 that hopefully I can go to the book launch of Books of Wonder on a Sunday, because I won't be working at Joann's anymore. Yay! But yeah, I'm really excited for that, and I hopefully will get to go meet her, and maybe share the books with the kids I work with. They're not really readers at the moment, but maybe I can change that by June. But I really like that series as well. So if you're looking for some books for your younger readers, or if you like middle graders yourself, I would recommend those 2 series as well. All right, well, these are my low-key favorites. Let me know yours in the comments or on my blog post, and I'll catch you all next week. Bye.